My name is Eric Roberts. I'm a detective at Greenville Police Department. I've been here for 21 years. I've been a detective for 15 years. Primarily my duties include for investigations. I do either death investigations, sexual assaults, child abuse cases, and child sexual assaults. Examples I'd like to bring up is, first of all, I'm subject to call-in. So when I get called in, it's going to be a major event, whether it be a death, or sexual assault, robbery, so forth. Many times I get called at the night. Upon my first phone call from dispatch, that's where I start receiving information from our dispatch to come to the station. Prior to me ever going down to the scene, I'll come to the station. My first action is going to be to sit and speak with the dispatcher or dispatchers on duty. I utilize that because from their information, I know A, what type of equipment to bring, clothing, or anything of that nature. They are the central point of the call. I mean, the call has to come through them, so they gather the initial information, plus they were receiving communications from responding officers. I do not call the officers on the scene because they could be tied up with either scene security or something involving their own safety or many other factors that they just can't be distracted. But the one person that knows what's going on is the dispatcher. That way I know what to bring and what to expect at the scene. My call-outs are either going to be deaths, sexual assaults, or robberies. It's usually a violent crime. Recently, this isn't necessarily a major case, but a local factory had paychecks being dispersed. A person came into the factory, took a paycheck, and forged it and cashed it at a local retailer. I responded there just to try to help identify who the suspect was because there was surveillance. The suspect was identified. She was known to us, but she was also known to be at large. She would either be at the Stardust Hotel or Townhouse Motel. Upon getting a still picture of her, like every other case I do talk to dispatch about what's going on because that's a group of individuals that has their own unique set of information from just fielding all the phone calls. They may not know the people by face, but they know them where they belong. Upon speaking to them, one of the dispatchers remembered that this individual's identification was ran on a scene that was of an overdose in which the individual survived. But officers have a tendency to run everybody involved to make sure there's no warrants. She had linked this woman to this address of just 2 days before on 3rd Street. So in less than 20 minutes, upon learning the identity of this person, I was at that address and was able to make an arrest of her and also recover some of the stolen money. Otherwise, without that piece of information, I'd have been going to the various hotels, bridges, and making phone calls trying to find this individual. But with that type of information, and that happens quite a bit, I do not see me working a case without discussing it with the dispatchers. More so just a dispatching a point of view, but just their information they have and their ability to connect people. It would be an asset greatly lost if I did not have that. I think it's a police intuition. We just have a tendency, not everything is put on paper, not every phone call they get generates a report, but they do spend time talking to these people and they know, just from what they do, they know who is where and so forth. Through the phone calls, through our main police line, not the 911 calls necessarily, but just their job is communications. People have a tendency to, they're going to talk to them, and that's what they do is they communicate with people, and a natural thing is they remember speaking to these people, and it's an asset. There's a strange intertwining always going on. Um, people people associate with different people throughout time. I mean, one person could have associations with 20 people. I mean, perhaps if I pick up a case with somebody I dealt with a couple years ago, the associates they had that I remember they were with a couple years ago is no longer associates. Uh, but I could utilize them if they were had any type of call or radio dispatch that they would remember where they're at. Right, and like I said, it's a huge asset for me, um, just just for the type of cases I work with. I don't work with small cases. I don't deal with misdemeanors. I'm dealing with death and sexual assaults and child abuse. Well, one, it'd be like taking one of your tools that you use most out of your toolbox and no longer having it. It would be kind of hard to replace that. Another example for me is one of the jobs I do is I have a tendency, I'll take what they call an officer removal of children. Multiple times when I do that, this will be at night. The child who had been in a very dangerous situation has to be removed from parents, whether for violent crime, drugs, what have you. Um, we have a fairly long delay before we could get children's services to come in, especially at night. I may be tied up with a suspect, but I still have to care for a child. And I can't think of any child that I had to bring to the station that I did not leave them in the care of the dispatch. They were able to sit in the dispatch. I've had, if they're under 5 years old, they have to have constant supervision. So I've had babies before. They've changed diapers before while we're waiting for children's services to get someone up for foster and so forth. For what I do, the lowest function they do is communications on the radio and everything else. What they provide me outside of just communications is far greater than that.